This tutorial is going to demonstrate how to perform sensitivity analysis in Excel. Specifically, we'll be using the data table function for sensitivity analysis. In our case, you're going to see how sensitivity analysis can be applied for the calculation of net present value. These are the assumptions of our case. This is our starting point. To calculate net present value, we need the future cash flow, which will come from those values. So for the duration of 5 years, we have a projection for sales, and we have some projection for cost of goods and services. We also have two variables called economic conditions and operation efficiency. And while these are our projections for sales and costs of goods and services, we recognize that our projections may be impacted by the economic conditions or by the operation efficiency of our plant. So these are our initial assumptions. Let's start the calculation of net present value, which is going to be our step 1. And our step 2 actually will be the calculation of the sensitivity analysis, or the performing sensitivity analysis. I'm going to calculate NPV here. Calculate NPV, starting with the assumptions. And if this is the variable called economic conditions, when the economic conditions improve, I expect the sales to improve also. When the economic conditions go down, I expect the sales to go down too. To realize this, to actually include economic conditions in the calculation of net present value, I'm going to multiply our initial assumptions by our variable called economic conditions. And for operation efficiency, when operation efficiency increases, I assume that the costs of goods and services will go down. And when the operation efficiency decreases, the costs of goods and services will increase. So I'll calculate actually the costs of goods and services by dividing the initial assumptions by operation efficiency. Again, it's a simplified model. I'm not saying that this is the only and the right way to do it, but the purpose of this tutorial is only to demonstrate how to perform sensitivity analysis. Now with all this done, we can calculate net profit, which is going to be the difference between sales and cost of goods and services. I'm going to do some formatting, and let's plot actually cost of goods and services. Let's plot it and visualize it. It will help understand. It will help us understand the effect of our variables on the model. So let's say this is the projections in neutral economy. But what will happen if the economy improves by 20%? Well, let's say it will lead to increase of sales by 20%. So when I increase the variable economic conditions from 1 to 1.2, this is what happens. Sales increase. Economic conditions may improve by 50%. So sales keep on increasing. Alternatively, when the operation efficiency increases, let's say by 20%, our cost of goods and services go down. And when the operation efficiency, let's say, decreases by 20%, cost of goods and services goes up. So this is the impact. This is how we program the impact of variable A and B on the net present value. In our case, let's assume that our rate of return is going to be 10%. which is a standard assumption based on the average performance of S&P 500 for the last 80 plus years. And NPV will be calculated using the NPV function in Excel. Okay, this is how it looks like. And we find that it's 6.67. Now again, because we don't have any cash flow in year 0 in the current year, it is not added to the net present function in Excel. And this is our calculation of NPV. Now we would like to see how changes in any of those parameters impact net present value. So we'll start a section called sensitivity analysis. And first we are going to examine the impact of variable 1 or economic conditions. The data table function which we use to perform sensitivity analysis is a block function, and it will be applied on a block of cells. So the arrangement of cells within the block is specific. Let's say I'm gonna name this block and put a label here called economy. And let's say I have a reason to believe that the economic conditions realistically can range between 0.9 and 1.5, which pretty much indicates that I do not expect the economic conditions to deteriorate more than 20%, but they can improve to as much as 50%. So these are the values which I would like to see changed for economic conditions. This is going to be the block of cells over which the data table function will be applied. And in this block, right here in the upper right corner, is where we should place the formula that needs to be changed as a function of the parameter, which will take those values. So this is going to be our net present value. And now we select the block again, and we're ready to apply the data table function. Go to data, what if analysis, data table. Because the values which we would like to change are in a column, we click column input cell, and we tell that these values should be substituted for economy, and NPV should be calculated for any of those values here. When we click OK, Excel calculates all of these values for the corresponding economic conditions. Now let's make this a little more readable, so I'm going to apply conditional formatting. If the value is greater than, let's say, 0, let it be green, and if the value is less than 0, let it be red. So we see that if everything else being equal, when the economic conditions go below 0.9, our net present value is going to be negative, and for all other values of economic conditions, NPV is going to be positive. Let's do the same for operation efficiency. Again, let's say I have a reasonable assumption that our operation efficiency can range between 0.7 up to 1.4, actually a little less, let's say 1.3. So in my case, I believe that this is what makes sense. Again, those assumptions must be based on very realistic real-life scenarios. If you were doing this for a real company, those assumptions must be real. Now I'm making those up just to demonstrate how sensitivity analysis is done. So this is going to be our block, and up here in the upper right corner, I'm going to place the formula that needs to be changed. To apply the data table function, I select this whole area, click the data table function, and because the values which will be changed are in a column again, this time, however, I tell Excel that the values in this column corresponds to operation efficiency. When I click OK, it calculates NPV for all of these values substituted in operation efficiency. A little formatting, conditional. And here we see that assuming that the economic condition doesn't change and stays at 1, in this case, when the operation efficiency drops below 0.9, we get negative net present value, and otherwise it becomes positive. So this is how we perform sensitivity analysis for two individual variables. But of course the question is, what happens when both of them change? Well, Excel can help us here, and our final step is going to be sensitivity analysis for the two variables changing simultaneously. So for that purpose we need to create a matrix with values. So in the column I'm going to change operation again. So these are going to be our operation values, and in the rows we're going to have our economy. We're going to have our economy variable values for economy. So this is the initial setup for the data table function for two parameters, and this is going to be the block over which we will apply the data table function. In contrast to the previous two cases when using single variable, in this case this is the place in the upper left corner where the function which will be changed need to be pasted. So this is the place where we'll tell Excel that this is the formula, our NPV, that needs to be recalculated for all of these values. With that said, we select again this area, request the data table function, and again we look at which values are we changing in the columns. Well, we change operation. So in column we change operation. Which values are we changing for rows? Well, in the rows we change economy. And when we click OK, NPV is calculated for all possible combinations for economy and operation. A quick conditional formatting helps with the readability, and we can see that these are the results of all possible combinations. Now, in our initial case, we have 6.67 here, or here it is again. So when our economy is 1 and our operation parameter is 1, we get 6.67. When the economy is fixed, let's say when economy is 1, this is the same as operation here. So when economy is 1, we get exactly the same values when operation changes, and when operation is fixed, we get exactly the same values for economy. So what this sensitivity analysis tells us actually is that in all these possible combinations for economic conditions and operation, when both of them are at their maximum, our net present value will be almost 31, and when both of them are at their minimum, we have substantial negative value of 12.7. And this is how sensitivity analysis is performed with the data table function in Excel. Excel. In part 2, we'll discuss Monte Carlo simulation, which will be more advanced, and it will reveal how to use more than two variables at the same time, and also it will consider the likelihood of those individual values as well.